In this video, I will show you how to use select elements in ASP.NET. So I will show you how to use simple and multi-select elements, how to use static and dynamic select options, and also how to use traditional and advanced select elements. So here we have two select elements. This one is a simple select element that supports the search functionality. And this one is a multi-select element that supports also the search functionality. We can select this option, then we can make another search. Then we can make another search to select another book. Let's click on Submit. So here we have the selected country, which is also displayed into this select element. And here we have the selected book identifiers, which are also displayed into this select element. In this part, I will show you how to use simple and multi-select elements with static options. So here I created this form that will be submitted using the post method. And here we have the first row. So in the first row we have a label with the text country. Then we have the first select element, and it is a simple select element. So this select element has a name which is country. So this is the name of the parameter that will be submitted to the server. And here we have static options. So these are the values that can be submitted to the server, and these are the values that will be displayed to the user. Then we have another row. So in this row, we will display the value of the first select element. And then we have another row that contains the label with the text books. And here we have the second select element. So this select element is a multi-select element. So it has the name books, and these are the values that can be submitted to the server, which are the book identifiers. And these are the values that will be displayed to the user. Then here we have another row that will contain the text of the second select element. So for the moment we have 3 dots. And finally we have this div that contains the submit button. So this is the obtained interface. This is the first select element that allows us to select a single option. And this is the second select element that allows us to select multiple options. So here we can select this book and this one, for example. Then we can click on Submit. So now I will show you how to replace these 3 dots that we have here and here with the value of the selected options of these 2 select elements. So let's go to the code of this page, which is this file. Then let's create 2 public properties that will contain the data of the 2 select elements. We can create them just here, for example. So these are 2 public properties. Like this, we can use them from the page. This is a property called selected country, which is of type string, and it will contain the value of the first select element, and it is initialized with an empty string. Then we have selected book IDs, which is of type string array. It is initialized with an empty string, and it will contain the value of the second select element. So when we submit the form, it will be submitted using the post method. That's why we need to implement the onPost method. So just here we can implement this method. Then we can read the value of the first select element, and we can save it into this property. So here we will read the data from the request, and we will read the data from the form. Then here we have to provide the name of the parameter that contains the data of the first select element. So between double quotes, we have to provide the name of the first select element. So this is the name of the first select element. Let's paste it just here. Then let's read the value of the second select element. So let's copy this property. Let's paste it here. And it is equal to request.form. Then between brackets, we have to provide the name of the second select element. So this is the name of the second select element. Let's paste it just here. Now we can display these two properties into the page. So let's go to the page. And after the first select element, and inside this row, we can display the selected value of the first select element. So let's delete this code. Let's write a C# code. So let's write then model dot the name of the first property, which is selected country. And here we can display the selected options of the second select element. So the second property that we created is of type string array, and we need to display its content as a string. So here let's write then string dot join, and between parentheses we have to provide two parameters. The first parameter is the separator between the different elements. So here we can use hyphen as a separator. Then we need to provide the name of the string array. So let's write model dot the name of the property, which is selected book IDs. Let's test the application. Let's select a country, and let's select some books, this one and this one, for example. Then submit. So here we have the selected country, and these are the book identifiers that we have selected. So instead of displaying static options inside the two lists, I will show you how to display these options dynamically. So for the first list, we can delete these options. And let's do the same thing for the second list. So we can delete these options. Now let's go to the code. And let's create two public properties of type list. So this is the first property. It is a list of select list item objects. And here we will fill it using some select list item objects. So now we need to add the corresponding namespace to fix this error. So let's select the first option. So every select list item contains the text that will be displayed to the user and the value that can be submitted to the server. So this property will be used to fill the first select element. Now let's create another list that will be used to fill the second select element. So it is a public property of type list of select list item objects. We can call it book list, and we will initialize it with an empty list. Now let's fill this list from the database. So we can fill it in the constructor, and in the constructor we can request the object that allows us to read the data from this configuration file, which is of type iConfiguration. Now we can use this object to read the data of this file. So now we need to connect to the database. So let's add try catch block. So here we will select all the columns from the books table, and we will read all the books from this table. Now let's execute this query and let's read the books. So this is the book ID, which is of type integer, and this is the book title, which is of type string. Now let's create an object of type select list item that we will add to this list. So here we have this select list item that we can create using this constructor, which requires two parameters of type string value. So we have the text that will be displayed to the user and the value that can be submitted to the server. So for the text we have book title, and for the value we should provide the book ID. But the book ID that we have here is of type integer. And to convert it into a string, we can provide first an empty string plus the book ID. And then we will add this item to this list, which is this public list. Now let's use this list and this list to fill the two select elements. So let's go to the page. Then let's add the ASP items tag helper to the first select element. So just here we can add ASP items. And then in the value we have to provide the name of the first list. So let's write model dot the name of the list, which is country list. Then let's do the same thing with the second select element. So just here we can do the same thing. So let's write ASP items, and it is equal to model dot book list. Let's save the files and let's test the application. So now we have these two select elements that are filled dynamically. And here we can see that we have the list of book titles that we have in the database. So let's select a country and let's select some book titles. This one, and also this one, for example. Let's click on submit. And here we have the selected country and the selected book identifiers. But we can see that this country is not selected into this select element, and these book identifiers are not selected into this select element. So to select the selected options of the select elements, we can use model binding. Now I will show you how to use model binding to bind some properties that we defined into the code to this form. So let's go to the code and let's bind these two properties to the form. To do this, we have to decorate them with the bind property attribute. And now, because these two properties are bound to the form, we don't need to read them into the code. So let's scroll down, and we can comment these two lines, or also we can delete them. So let's comment them, and let's add these two properties to the form. So to bind the first property with this select element, we need to use ASP4 tag helper. So here let's add ASP4, and let's bind selected country to this select element. Let's do the same thing with the second select element. So let's add ASP4, and let's bind it to selected book IDs. Also, we need to delete the name attribute. So let's delete it, and let's delete it from the first select element. Now we can test the application. Let's select a country, and let's select some books. So here we can see that the selected country is selected into this list, and the selected books are also selected into this select element. Now, instead of using the traditional select elements, I will show you how to use advanced select elements that support the search functionality. So we will use select to. So here let's type select to. Then let's go to this first link. Let's go to installation, and let's use this library from the CDN. So we need to copy these two lines. Let's copy the first line, and let's add it to the layout file. So the layout file is available under shared. Then in the head we have to paste the line. Now let's copy the second line. And let's paste it in the bottom of this file. So we need to paste it after the line that contains jQuery, because select2 depends on jQuery. So just here we can paste the second line. Then let's go to basic usage. And we need to copy this JavaScript code. Then let's paste it into a script element. So let's create a script element, and let's paste the code. Then we need to replace this class name with the class name of our select elements. So let's delete this. Let's go to the page. And here we can see that our select elements are of type form select. So let's copy this text, and let's paste it just here after the dot. Let's save the file and let's test the application. So now we can see that the appearance of these two select elements has changed. So let's click on the first select element, and here we can make a search. Let's select this country, and then here we can make also a search. So we can select this book. Let's write another search text. We can select this book as well. Then let's write computers. Then we can select this option. Now let's click on submit. So here we have the selected country, which is also displayed into this select element, and here we have the selected book identifiers, which are also displayed into this select element.